Hi everyone, this is Chrysanthi from Happy Habitats, California, and today we are going to be looking at how different events affect the environment. We're going to be taking a look at how natural changes affect the environment versus how human activities affect the environment. The materials that you're going to need for today's lesson are both pages of our worksheet, a pen or a pencil or something to write with, something to color with. I'm going to be using these colored pencils, some scissors, a glue stick, and a piece of paper for your background. I'm going to be using this brown piece of construction paper, but you can use whatever you have. The vocabulary words you are going to need to know for this lesson are earthquakes, which is the shaking, rolling, or sudden shock of the Earth's surface. This happens when the Earth's outermost layer moves. The next word you're going to need to know is landslide, which is a large amount of earth, rock, and other material that moves down a steep slope. The next word is flood, which is when water covers land that is usually dry. Our next word is drought, and this is when there is a lack of rain over a long period of time. Our next word is a little tricky. It's deforestation, which is the act of clearing away and cutting down forests and trees. You can see in the word deforestation, we have that prefix de, which means the lack of, to take away, sort of like decrease, and the word forest, because we're taking away forests when we cut them down. Our last vocabulary word is pollution, which is when something is added to the environment that is harmful to living things. Pollution could be gas, smoke, chemicals, or trash. First, we are going to take a look at natural changes that affect the environment. Natural changes are not directly caused by humans and happen in nature. The first natural change we're going to take a look at is fire. Some fires are caused by humans. When people forget to put out their campfires, fire can spread. Other fires, like the ones we are looking at today, happen when lightning strikes a tree. So now we're going to draw our picture of fire. First, we are going to write fire as our label under the first box. And now I'm going to use my colored pencils to draw a picture of fire. It doesn't need to be perfect. This is just a sketch to help you. Use some orange here. How about some yellow? Does that look pretty fiery? Awesome. Now let's think about what fire does to the environment. Fires burn down lots of plants and trees. Where it is very dry, fire spreads easily. Animals can lose their habitats and have a hard time finding food. Now let's think of a good sentence that we can write about how fire affects the environment. So I'm getting out my second page of the worksheet, and I think I'm going to write fires burn the plants that some animals use as habitats. Now you can write whatever sentence that you think best summarizes up how fire affects the environment. Next, we are going to look at earthquakes. In California, we get more earthquakes than other states. Lots of times, the earthquakes aren't very big though. Now we're going to go back to our first page of the worksheet, And this time we're gonna do our one for earthquakes. So I'm gonna write earthquakes on the bottom right here. And then I'm gonna get out my colored pencils so that we can draw a picture of an earthquake. This one's a little hard, but I think I'm gonna do a big cut through the ground. Let's see how this turns out. I'm going to do some shading over here. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. We can add, we can add maybe some plants up here. And add some black right here. All right, so there's our picture of the earthquake. Now let's think about what happens to the environment during an earthquake. When the ground moves and shakes, the soil can move around and trees might fall down. On mountains or hills, soil, with the plants that grow in it, can slide down. This is a landslide. So now we need to think of a good sentence that sort of summarizes how earthquakes affect the environment. You can write whatever you want, but I think I'm going to write earthquakes cause the soil to move, trees to fall down, and sometimes a landslide. All right, that looks good. The next natural change we're going to be looking at are floods. A flood might happen if it rains a lot. Sometimes the drains overflow and the water ends up covering the ground. Alrighty, let's go back to our first page. And here in this third slot, I'm gonna write flood. And I'm going to get out my colored pencils so that I can draw a picture of a flood. So my flood, there's gonna be lots of water. See what else. Oops. We're going to do different colors. Look at all that water. And maybe I'll draw a tree that got stuck in the flood. Oh no. Maybe I'll draw another. All right, so there's our flood. How do floods affect the environment? Floods can be very dangerous for people, plants, and animals. The water can wash away habitats and the plants and animals that live in them. Rivers might overflow, and animals that usually live in the water can end up on land. That's not good. Now, what's a good sentence that we could write about floods? I'm going to write floods wash away habitats or move animals to habitats they don't belong in. All right, looks great. The last natural change we're going to look at are droughts. Droughts are pretty common in California because sometimes we don't get enough rain. Droughts can also lead to other natural changes like fires. If there isn't enough water, fires happen easier. So at the bottom, I'm going to write the word drought. And let's draw a picture of a drought. So I'm going to try to draw a really dry field. So I'm going to use this tan color. Might add in some yellow just to make it look really, really dry like a drought. And maybe I'll add in some like plants that don't really have enough water. They're all sort of brown. Let me add in a couple more. Right, so it's not the best, but that's going to be my picture of a drought. Now let's think about what droughts do to the environment. Without water, it's hard for plants and animals to survive. There might not be enough food for animals, and their habitats could be destroyed. If there isn't enough water in a certain place, animals might move to other places to find water. All right, let's think about a good sentence that we can write about how droughts affect the environment. I think I'm going to write, droughts make it hard for plants and animals to find food and water. Awesome, looking great. Now let's look at human activities that affect the environment. Human activities are things that people do that hurt our environment. What might be good for people might not be so good for animals. The first human activity we're going to look at is construction. In order to build buildings, roads, and houses, humans have to clear land to make room. So now we're going to start on our human activities that affect our environment panel. So our first one is construction. So I'm going to start by drawing one of those little yellow caution signs that you see all the time at construction. Right, I'm going to put a little exclamation point for people to watch out and be careful. Behind it, I'm going to draw some buildings. Bunch of different sizes. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just get a good idea. Let's add in some windows. Awesome. Maybe some light shading over here, just to give it a real feeling. And maybe we'll just add some blue into the sky. Alrighty, and that looks great. Now, how does construction affect the environment? When people make room for their buildings, they destroy habitats some animals and plants live in. These creatures have a hard time surviving if they don't have a place to live. All right, now let's go on to our human activities and how they affect the environment. For construction, we need to write a sentence. And I think my sentence is going to be, construction damages the habitats, animals, and plants live in. Awesome, looking great. The second human activity we are looking at is logging. This can also be called deforestation. Humans need wood from trees to make paper, build things, or burn as fuel. To get this wood, they need to chop down trees. So now we need to label this side of the worksheet. And oops, I just realized I forgot to write construction down here. So let's write that right now. If you caught my mistake, good for you. But now let's start by writing logging here at the bottom. And I need some brown if I'm going to draw pictures of some stumps right here to show all the trees that got put down. All right, and now over here, I think I'm just going to try to draw a bunch of different little logs over here for logging. Look at all those logs, like a big stack. Awesome. Let me add some texture on the ground, just some like little grass over here. Maybe I'll add in a couple more stumps. Alrighty. Looking good. Now, let's think about how this would affect our environment. Lots of animals have their habitats in trees, or get their food from trees. When those trees are cut down, they have nowhere to live. Trees also make a lot of the oxygen that we breathe. So now we're going to need to write a sentence about how logging affects the environment. I think I'm going to write logging cuts down trees that lots of animals need to survive. Okay, awesome. Our next human activity is mining. Humans dig into the earth to find oil that is used for fuel and metals that are used for jewelry, technology, and buildings. So I'm going to label the bottom here as mining. Now for a picture, I'm going to draw one of these mines. Ooh, this is a little easier said than done. Remember, the picture doesn't have to be perfect, and you can draw whatever you want to think of for mining. Okay. Ooh, let me add in some darker colors down here because it's super duper deep. Big hole in the ground. And maybe to make things interesting, I'll add in like a little diamond right here. Just to show, maybe another, just to show that this is mining. Remember, you can draw whatever you want that helps you remember the effect the act has on the environment. How do you think mining affects the environment? When people need to find stuff underground, they need to clear away what is on top of the ground. This land is often the habitats of animals and plants. Mining also releases lots of bad gases into the air that can hurt the animals living nearby, but we'll get more into that soon. So now we need to write a sentence about how mining affects the environment. You can write whatever sentence you want that you think sort of summarizes everything that we've been talking about. I think what I'm going to write is mining causes the habitats of plants and animals to be cleared away. Almost done. Finally, the last human activity we are going to take a look at is pollution. Pollution happens when lots of yucky gases, chemicals, and trash end up where they aren't supposed to be. Cars, fires, and factories make these gases that end up in the air. When we litter, we contribute to pollution. Sometimes you can see pollution happening, and sometimes it's invisible. I'm going to write pollution here at the bottom. And now I need to draw a picture of pollution. Now this is a tricky one, and however you think about pollution, you can totally draw that. First, I think I'm going to draw some like air pollution. So look at that. Sort of gray smoke coming out of these little factories. So that's some of my pollution. And then I think I'm also going to draw some water down here. And maybe I'll draw some pieces of trash that are polluting this water. I'm going to do a bunch of different colors. Sort of just a bunch of little shapes to show all the not nice pollution in this. I think it's a river. We're going to call it a river. Sort of a colorful river now. Alrighty, there's pollution. Now, let's think about how pollution would affect the environment. We sort of talked a bit about this when we were looking at mining, but also when trash and chemicals enter the habitats of animals and plants, it might make them sick. It's also not good for them to breathe in dirty air that's caused by air pollution. The water might also be dirty and not good for creatures to drink. Okay, so for our last effect, we need to write a sentence about how pollution affects the environment. I'm going to write pollution in the water, in the air, and on land makes animals and plants sick. That's no good, but we just finished this portion of our activity. Okay, so now that we finished the writing and drawing part of our activity, we need to cut everything out. So when we're cutting, we're going to cut along only these dotted lines that you see, and we're going to make sure that we're super duper careful with our scissors. So let's start cutting. When you cut out your pieces, you can keep them all together in order to keep it all super organized so that we can find these pieces later when we're gluing them on our construction paper. Oop, I just realized that some of that wasn't on camera, but I think you guys know what you're doing. Alright, I got this part all cut out. Now I'm going to cut out this little versus symbol. All right, now I got this bottom part. There's a lot that we gotta cut out. Okay, so once we've cut out this first page, I'm going to move on to the second page with all the written explanations. Make sure you're only cutting along the dotted lines here. You don't want to cut across here like we did with the other page, because those are the flaps, and when we finish it, you'll see how it works. It's super cool. All right. Almost done. Make sure you're being careful with those scissors. Okay, awesome. So now that we have cut out all of our pieces, oh, there's quite a few pieces. Now we are going to get out our construction paper. Doesn't matter what color you got, and your glue stick. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find my natural changes header and my human activities header. And I'm also going to get my versus symbol. Oh, couldn't find it there for a second. So I'm going to take out my glue, and I'm going to sort of position these where I want them. I want them right up at the top. I'm going to take out my glue, and I'm going to glue the back of my natural changes paper. I'm going to very carefully put that down there, sort of smooth it out. And I'm going to do the same thing with my human activities one. Make sure you get the corners so it really sticks on there. Awesome. So let's put our human activities one right there. Now I'm going to take my little versus symbol, and I'm going to glue that right in the middle. Awesome. So now I'm going to find my base. This was on the second sheet where we wrote a lot of things down. That goes with our natural changes. So that's going to have the fire, earthquake, floods, drought. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue down the back. Getting it all nice and covered in glue. Doesn't need too much though. And I'm going to line that up right under my natural changes, so you can sort of see that. Got that all nice lined up there. And I'm going to do the same one with the other written portion under human activities. Make sure you get those corners. That's the best place. Make sure it really sticks on there. Okay. Make sure you put that right side up. We're going to glue on our bottom right here. Awesome, looking great. So now we're going to take our natural changes top. So this is the one with the different flaps, And we have to be really, really careful here. We don't want to glue all of these flat parts on. We actually only want to glue this part right here. It's on the back. So this part right here, so that it sticks. Make sure you're only gluing this part because you want to be able to read what's underneath. So we're going to glue just that little strip right there. We're going to put it down right here. Awesome. And we're going to do the same side with the human activities part. Remember, just glue this part. You don't want glue on the flaps. You just want it on the edge, just so it sticks on there. Just going to put some glue right there. All right, looks good. And there we have it. Now, if you want, I think I'm going to add just a little bit of color up here. Just shade that in. You can add whatever colors you want and whatever little extra designs that you want. Ooh, let's make the human side. Let's make this blue color. Just doing some light shading just to add some color to it, make it a little bit more fun and creative. Maybe I'll make the versus sign. Let's make it yellow. So we've got all our primary colors up there. Awesome, so now we finished our activity. So you can see that we have our header and we have our flaps down here. So under each of the pictures, we have what we wrote down about it and how all these different events, changes, and activities affect the environment.
Great job, everyone. I hope you learned a lot during this Happy Habitats lesson, and I can't wait to learn more with you.